again, my achievers. Welcome to yet another revision session. Today, we are going to be looking at poems where we re-examine the rules and guidelines to help us in general should we be given a poem on our language paper at the upcoming National Grade 6 Examination 2021. With every revision lesson, we are trying to understand the structure of the language paper. We know that the language paper 1 has 40 multiple choice, and the language paper 2 is divided into two sections, section A and section B. Now, for the poem, you most likely will find that on your paper 1. That is in the multiple choice section. Now, the poem is a form of stimulus that may be used in the examination. We don't know if they will use a poem, but we must be prepared. So today, we will be going through a poem and looking at some of the possible questions that could come relating to the poem. Now remember that poetry is the expression of ideas and feelings through a rhythmical composition of imaginative and beautiful words. In poetry, the sound and meaning of words are combined to express feelings, thoughts, and ideas. The poet who writes the poem chooses words carefully. Poetry is usually written in short lines. Now, like stories, the poem has various elements. Those are rhythm, and the rhythm is the flow of the beat in a poem. It gives a poem a musical feel. It can be fast or it can be slow, depending on the mood and subject of the poem. You can measure rhythm in meters or by counting the beats in each line. Then we have rhyme. Now, rhyme is the most common song device in poetry. Writers love to use interesting songs in their poems. After all, poems are meant to be heard. These song devices also include repetition. Imagery. This is the use of words to create pictures or images in your mind. Remember, you are trying to appeal to the reader. Appeals to the senses such as smell, sight, hearing, taste, and touch. Details about smell, sound, color, and taste creates strong images. The poets also use a lot of figures of speech to create those vivid images. Now for figurative language. Figures of speech are the tools or devices that the poet uses to create images or paint pictures in your mind as well. They include similes, metaphors, alliteration, hyperboles, onomatopoeias, and in many cases, personification. Now, these elements help the reader to understand the poem and create a clearer image in the mind. When you are given questions to answer based on a poem, make sure you read the entire poem at least twice and then look at the questions. Let's keep in mind all that you have learned about poem thus far, and let's examine the poem Fire and try to answer some questions on same. The poem Fire by Claudette Thompson. Fire, fire! A house is on fire. Don't go near the electrical wire. Black smoke pollutes the air. It's the old lady's house I do fear. Yellow and red flames and hungrily as they dance on rapidly. Crack, crack as beams crash. The bucket brigade in panic dash. Onlooker their heads upraised, wait anxiously while fire rage. Fire engines come with blaring sirens. Too late, debris and ruins. Never cook and take a nap. This will surely cause mishap. Always be on the alert so a fire you can avert. Now that was quite an interesting poem. Did you enjoy listening to it? Now, while it was interesting and maybe good to listen to, the poem also had a very good message and advice for us to take. Now, what do you think this poem was about? Yes, it was about a fire, because in the very first line it says, "Fire, fire, a house is on fire." The poem describes how a house fire started and what was done to put it out. So let's look at a few more questions. Where did the fire start? Now, in order for you to be able to answer this question, you most obviously had to have read the poem. That is why you were advised to at least read the poem 2 times before you start answering the questions. Now, it says, "Fire, fire, a house is on fire. Don't go near the electric wire. Black smoke pollutes the air. It's the old lady's house I do fear." But think about that. Can you answer the first question by just reading that first paragraph? Does it tell you exactly where the fire started? No. So you must take the time to read the entire poem before you actually start. Because some people might be tempted to say on the electric wire, because in the first stanza it says, "Don't go near the electric wire." So there is an answer there that says on the electric wire. But if you look at stanza 4, it says, "Never cook and take a nap. This will surely cause mishap." So where can we say the fire started? If it says never cook, that gives us a clue that the fire had to be in the kitchen. So where did the fire start? It started in the kitchen. The next question, the line "Fire, fire, a house is on fire" gives a feeling of, what feeling do you get when you read that line? Remember, I said that in poetry, it also gives a sense of great feeling. It sets a mood or a tone with the use of words. Now look at the words, fire, fire, and the use of exclamation marks. What do we know about exclamation marks? They're used to express strong feelings and emotion. So let's look at the words here that might express strong feelings and emotion related to you finding out that there is a fire. Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you disappointed? Is it a sense of anxiety? Yes, it's a sense of anxiety. You have the feeling of, anxiety. You're scared. You don't know what will happen. Not necessarily that you're angry, but you're more afraid and anxious because something is happening so sudden. Fire, fire, a house is on fire. So the answer for that question is you get a feeling of anxiety. Now, which line in the poem tells us that the house was completely burnt? Remember, we're looking for the line that will help us to know that the house was completely burnt. You have to use here your knowledge of word clues. Now, if a house or a building is completely burned, what will be left? Yes, ruins. Everything is gone. So the last line in the third stanza that says, "Too late, too late, debris and ruins." That's the line that helps us to know that everything was all gone. Our next question asks, which lines in the poem show the fire behaving like a human being? Now, this is where your knowledge of your figurative devices will come in. And remember, we said we have similes, we have metaphors, we have alliteration, we have personification. Now, which one of those will deal with human behavior? Yes, personification. Personification is where inanimate objects are given human-like characters. So, which lines would have given the fire human-like characters. Look at things that would say that the fire was behaving like a human being. Now look at the second stanza. Yellow and red flames eat hungrily. Now, can the fire really eat? Who eats? People eat. So here we're seeing that we are giving that human quality to the fire. We're saying that the fire was eating something. And then we also see the next line, as they danced on rapidly. Now, can the fire really dance? No, people dance, but here we are using the word dance to probably explain or to show how the fire was moving. So the lines in the poem that would actually show the fire behaving like a human being are lines 5 and line 6. Now, in this poem, they could have also asked you something about personification, and the answer would be the same as lines 5 and 6. But you have to be careful. You have to read the questions carefully, and you have to learn to use your skill of skimming and scanning so that you find the answers for those questions. Now, our last question for this poem. What message does the poet convey? What message is it that you're getting when you read this poem? Remember, I said, as much as the poem has a rhythm and a flow and it's nice to read, it also has a lesson behind it. So what lesson, what message are we getting from this poem? The whole scenario described here was not a nice one. So the message here we're learning is one should never sleep while cooking. Look at the end result. The entire house was burnt. Now, for a poem like this, you could also be given a word and asked to find a rhyming word from the poem. So your knowledge of rhyming words has to also be on par. You have to know words that rhyme. Now look at the first stanza. Could you pick the words that rhyme? We have fire and wire, fair and air. In stanza 2, we have crash and dash. So you want to ensure that you understand rhymes so that if you are given a question based on selecting rhyming words from a poem, you would have that knowledge and be able to answer the questions. Now, remember, as I said, poetry is that expression of ideas and feelings through a rhythmatical composition of imaginative and beautiful words. And you would have seen that in the poem we used today. The sound and meaning of words are combined to express the feelings, thoughts, and ideas of the poet for you to understand a real scenario or understand the imaginative piece that they would have put together. Now the poet, because they want to give you the storyline with the use of short sentences or short lines, they choose their words carefully. Remember, poetry is written usually in short lines. Well, my pupils, I really hope that you enjoyed the poem that we examined today and you were paying careful attention to the questions and how they might be formed based on a poem. Now, it is important for you to remember that a poem may come in your paper 1 as the stimulus for the comprehension section. It is found in the multiple choice in the paper 1. It is not a separate paper. It is found in the multiple choice section, paper 1. Remember, try reading other poems and try answering questions based on them. As always, I am Ms. Shamshuddin here on the NGSA Booster Program, giving you tips and guidelines to help you be better prepared for your NGSA examination. I hope you continue to follow us and to take all the tips that we are giving you for all the subjects. This is all I have for you today. Goodbye until next time.